Right, let's jump right in because we have so much good stuff to get into today. I am your host, Steph Wentworth from All About Steph 1 on YouTube, and I am very privileged today to be joined with a whole host of incredible women who work behind the scenes at Codemasters. So this is going to be a really exciting one, definitely an opportunity to deep dive into lots of different aspects of Codemasters and what you could potentially do with them, which is a really different aspect of motorsport. So if you do have any questions, please do not hesitate to pop them in the Q&A function down below, and we will get through as many as we can throughout the webinar. But don't forget as well, this is also being recorded, so if you have to dip, don't worry, it will be on the community Facebook page and you will be able to catch up, and all of these lovely ladies will be happy to answer any questions that you may potentially have. So, hi ladies, how are you all doing today?
Hello.
Hey.
It's great to see you all. I know that everyone will be very curious as to what each and every single one of you do. So I was thinking, let's just get started by me introducing you and then you telling us a little bit about what your role entails and kind of how you got to where you are. So we'll start with you, Catherine, shall we? Because you are the associate brand manager, and so you're all about marketing and that you're the expert in that. So how did you get to where you are now?
So yeah, I work at Codemasters as an associate brand manager, so looking after the day-to-day marketing on specific games. How I got to Codemasters, a bit of a long story, but I knew I wanted to work in motorsports. So when I was 18, I thought the only way into motorsports was to work in engineering. So I went to do my foundation degree in engineering in Bristol. Decided it wasn't for me. I actually hate maths. So yeah, definitely made a mistake there and decided that I was more commercial and more, commercially driven and more creative. So I went to do my business management with marketing degree. I started working in team sport actually and started competing in karting. But in team sport, it was a great little job. I was just behind the counter, then, worked my way up to race director so I could get out on track, help people out on track, but decided that it was a bit of a dead-end job. I didn't know if, it wasn't a sustainable long-term career. So I decided to start my own little PR and marketing agency that focused on working with motorsport brands, and and then I actually worked for Motorsport UK after that, looking after the marketing for Wales Rally GB, which was so cool. And then 6 months ago, I joined Codemasters, knowing nothing about games whatsoever. I don't really play them. I do play them now, but at the time I didn't play any games, and I'm not one to pick up a controller normally. But yeah, I essentially got picked or got chosen from my interview at Codemasters because I had that background in motorsport. So obviously Codemasters are an exclusive sort of racing game company, and so here I am now.
Yes, here you are. So you're really new to kind of Codemasters, but you've got straight involved, and look where you are now. It's fantastic. Let's talk to Amanda next, because you work at Codemasters/EA on arcade and driving sims. So do you want to talk a little bit about that, because that's a kind of much different aspect to marketing?
Yeah, sure. Hello, Steph. I worked on Dirt 5, and yeah, it's a bit more. It's because you have sim games and you have arcade games, and Dirt 5 kind of what they call the simcade game, where it's kind of got it kind of takes both those aspects of you've got the arcadey Mario Kart, power-ups and sort of more exaggerated handling of the car with the slightly more realistic type of vehicle handling that you get on something like F1. I work on not the handling, but on the. I work as an associate game designer on some of the other bits that are kind of around and about the handling in the on track game experience. I do the, make sure all the cars are a good price, and that kind of enters into the sort of role play aspect in games where cars cost money, and the cool cars will cost lots of money, and the not so cool cars will cost less money, and kind of balancing stuff like that. I did a bit of work trying to in the DLC for Dirt 5's career, kind of setting up all the events for that, making sure they kind of had a nice feel and flow to them. I was kind of likening it a bit to how a radio DJ would pick tracks to play on a playlist or something, and you're like, oh, it's dead easy, and they're like, no, because you want it to feel nice and to have a flow, and it would put, you have this one, it starts slow, and then you go, this is dead complicated, then maybe you want something different. And so that was kind of, oh, Amanda, you sure you want it like this? And I'm like, yes, and I'll tell you why. And they're like, no. So so that's kind of what I did and what I've worked on for the past 2 years.
Fantastic. And there's been a lot of talk, especially in the Girls on Track community, about Dirt 5. There's lots of competitions and stuff going on. C1, you also worked on Dirt 5. I believe you're the Associate Development Manager at the Cheshire studio for Codemasters. Is that correct? So how did you factor into the Dirt 5 development and whatnot?
Hi, so I work with Amanda. I'm a bit like Katrin. I've only been, I think this is my 7th month now at the Cheshire studio. So yeah, my role, associate, such a long title, associate development manager, another word for an associate producer. Yeah, so my role is to work with designers like Amanda, programmers and artists, and basically help them in their day-to-day and how to make a game, and help them in the best way I can by planning and scheduling, and well, the most important thing is to try and unblock them. So if they can't do something, to help them in the best way to unblock them. I also work with, well, I don't at the moment, but my colleague will work with the marketing department, so maybe someone in Katrin's department, and then I'll work with the licensing department. So maybe if we want to use a specific building or image or even a pattern in the game, then that all has to go through licensing. So there's a whole process there. And most importantly, we work with the testers as well. So the QA team, to make sure that the bugs that are coming in get tested and tested in so many different ways. So yeah, that's how I've helped in the last 7 months.
Yeah, you've had a jam-packed 7 months, haven't you? Lots going on. Let's talk to Becky now, because you are senior games designer. Tell us, what does this role entail? How did you get to where you are now?
So my senior games design title is quite new, so I'm actually level design, sort of that's the role I do, but with that title now. And it's been quite a journey to get to where I am, because originally when I was little I wanted to be a roller coaster designer, so
Wow.
it's not that quite that different. And then as I sort of was applying for universities, I was at a different stage, and I was kind of thinking I want to be a roller coaster designer, I want to be a video games designer, and I also wanted to work on like special effects in movies and make explosions and stuff. So I chose a course that was quite broad, so it was called multimedia, but it gave me the opportunity to explore lots of different areas, from game design to working with 3D on a computer, film and television stuff in there. And then as I progressed through the 3 years there, it started to become more and more apparent that I was going to go, towards the video game design side of things. And that's when I finished my degree and I sort of started applying out to different games companies, and you get loads of rejections back going, no, you're not what we're looking for, and you keep trying, and then you take the feedback and you say, okay, so they want to see some more different stuff on my portfolio. So I would turn my portfolio around and I'd make more things in my spare time, and I'd pad my portfolio out and apply again. And then eventually I got a role in QA in Codemasters, which is the testing side of things, and I worked there for a little while. And then at the same time, ended up going to do like a secondment into the design side of things. And then that came to an end. And then I got interviewed for a job on that eventually. So that's kind of how I ended up where I am. And so my day-to-day kind of work now involves anything from finding the location that we want to put into game, you know, whether it's a real life sort of circuit track, like the types that you'd see in, you know, like motorsport TV, or something that's completely like made up based on a real world location. And we start off with like a design for that, build that in 2D, you know, make sure that all looks good, and then that would go into a 3D process, and then collaborating with the art team to make sure that it looks nice as well as plays nice, and it kind of goes on from there to the rest of the games design team.
Sounds fantastic. There's so much involved and you're all part of it in different ways and you all interlink. It's fantastic to see. And finally, we are going in the complete opposite direction. We are now going to talk to Jenny, who is the social media manager for all things the F1 game. So Jenny, tell us a little bit about what you do.
Yeah, so hello. I have been the social media and community manager, or rather community engagement specialist, since about 2015. So I came on board at Codemasters. I'd kind of like to say just as F1 2015 was coming out the door, so it's quite a while. It's not felt that long. It's felt like it's gone like that, but it has been a long time. I got into it effectively, I want to say by accident, but it's not really by accident. So I started my career in social media. So actually started my career in like TV, small broadcast television, and then kind of I got the skills for social media. I kind of built up my experience by managing kind of different social media channels, and I've always been a gamer. I've always been into motorsport. F1 is my thing. It's always been my thing. Gaming's always been my thing. I had parents that gamed. I game since I was little. So kind of combining both the two together was kind of like a dream for me, but I never really saw myself doing it because, you know, since when do you ever get to do this kind of stuff in real life, right? Since when does that ever happen to you? So it was actually a friend of mine who sent me the vacancy that they got, and I applied going, well, I can't lose anything, right? It's one of those, you know, you can't lose anything. If you just apply, I've not lost anything, right? And then actually I was called for an interview. And I was kind of, I remember kind of like going, what am I doing here? I'm giving this. So, you know, I thought, let's do it. So did the interview, and then got called for a second interview, still absolutely, you know, shocked and amazed. And then, yeah, you know, I ended up here and I'm still here. And yeah, it's a real privilege because you know, this is the stuff that I've dreamt of, and I never thought that this would be the thing that I'd get into, because it was so far. It was like something that was so far up here. You'll never get to do something like that. You know, since when do you ever get to do the stuff that you dream about? And so yeah, that's kind of how it happened for me. And in terms of my day-to-day, so my day-to-day is kind of like so kind of it's short-term looking after the social media channels, so it's day-to-day posting on them, and then it's kind of also looking longer term, so it's looking at longer term kind of in terms of the social media strategy, how is it going to look like, all this kind of stuff. It's also kind of dealing with community feedback, so it's sending that to the dev team and they're dealing with what they're after. So you know, do they need more information on this, how is this going, etc., etc. And then there's also data as well. So it's also looking at data, looking at, you know, kind of how did this do, comparing it with other things, is there anything we can learn from this? So it's kind of in the mix between like kind of creative, so kind of, you know, sometimes you're trying to get those puns exactly right, you know, you're trying to, what's a pun for this? And, you know, and then another day you're kind of digging into numbers, you know, kind of going, oh, how did this do compared to this? And so it's kind of, it's a really mixed role that you find yourself almost, I want to say, wearing a multitude of different hats, but yeah, it's great.
It's fantastic. Do you know what's really fascinating to me as well? There's so many different aspects that you could go into, and with all of you, you all do such different things day to day as well, and it's just a testament to how many kind of routes there are into motorsport and how many different routes there are into different jobs within motorsport. So it's really interesting. We have a question that has come in from an anonymous attendee who says, what did your parents think about your career choices? Did they approve when you said, I want to go and design games, or I want to go and I'm going to be a social media manager for the F1 game? How did they react?
Can I just answer that one? So I went to study transport design at university, and I wanted to design cars, and then I realised I wasn't an engineer, so I went back and did fine art. But when I said to my dad, who is a very traditional farmer, that I want to go and draw and paint for a living, he literally walked into my high school and sat down with my art teacher and went, what the hell is this for, you know? And then that was his reaction. So
not the best reaction, but I hope he's warmed up to it now.
Yeah, he's all grand with it now. Yeah, but that was his instant reaction was like, you're gonna make a career by drawing. You know, I'm not drawing at the minute, but I'm definitely still in the creative sector, which is where I want to be. Yeah.
We might have had the same upbringing. We're both Welsh, so maybe, who knows? My dad is exactly the same. I got into motorsport because of him. He rallied, he competes in the British Hill Climb Championship and stuff. But we had that bond. I really knew that I wanted to go into motorsport, and he was like, engineering is the only way, and it's a really good job, and this is what you're going to do. And I was like, okay, yeah, I'll go do that. And then when I was like, I'm not enjoying it, it's not for me, we had a big argument. He was like, I'm quite disappointed in you. I was like, oh, I just need to do what I need to do. But since then I managed to get, I mean, this is a bit big-headed for me to say, but I've managed to get a first in my degree doing business management and marketing. And
yes,
I think I would have scraped past in engineering. But I think he came around to seeing that I've made the right choice. But I think that it's change, isn't it? And taking your parents on that change. But however, they've always been supportive in what I've wanted to do since then. And yeah, it's probably just a shock to the system, because I spoke about engineering for like 5 years, being like, yeah, I'm going to be an engineer, and then being like, I'm not going to be an engineer. And yeah, so but yeah, since then, they've been really supportive. And I think explaining to your parents why you want to do something, I think they're going to support you, or they should support you in what you want to do at the end of the day. Or that was my experience anyway.
Mm-hmm. Definitely staying true to yourself is a good way to look at it. Always do what you want to do. Does anyone else have any experiences with their parents that they'd like to share, or have we gone through them all?
I think I was quite similar to my dad in that before he retired, he was a designer as well. So I think he kind of knew where my head was at already. And I think it was more, making sure that I was making the right choices to get to that position in the first place. So I think I was quite lucky in that respect. But I don't think that any of us ever thought it would be video games, because we always thought it was such a hard industry to get into. So I think that was the sort of surprise part. It was like it was going to be something creative and design sort of side of things, but where I ended up was a bit of a mystery.
Fantastic. Well, it's so good to hear that you've all kind of ended up with positive experiences on your route this way. But I want to ask you, as women, how do you feel in an industry that is obviously dominated by men? Do you ever feel imposter syndrome or anything like that? And if so, how do you manage to deal with that kind of on a day-to-day basis? I'll throw it to the floor. Anyone?
I'll jump in on the imposter syndrome bit. I did my degree in film. It was the biggest waste of money ever. So I did my degree in film, came out, the recession hit, so nobody was hiring. So I just kind of went and worked in Sainsbury's for 5 years, and then just kind of kept trying, kept applying for jobs, kept just being like pestering people, come on, give me a job, and kind of eventually I got hired by a small indie studio, and there was 12 of us, and I worked there for about 5 years, and I was like, right, I'm ready for something else. I'm ready for something bigger. Apply for Codemasters, and I was really just like completely gobsmacked that I got hired. I had like little panic attacks because I was like, because I think in the game industry, I guess motorsports is a bit like this as well. You get a bit tight knit, and so these kind of 12 other guys I'd been working with, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm betraying them and going to Codemasters. No, they were all fine with it. They were happy that I'd go on to a bigger company. And then like the first good couple of months working in Codemasters, I had imposter syndrome so bad, so hard. I felt, I was just like, driving up into, this was back when we were in the office, driving into the office, just kind of like, oh goodness, they'll I don't even know what I'm doing. The first day they were asking me about, Amanda, give us some feedback on handling. And you're like, I don't know. I've never driven a Ferrari. I can't give you any handling feedback.
That's not a hobby of yours.
Not yet. Anyway, not at the time. Anyway, and it was just like through a combination of. Thankfully, Codemasters was really, really lovely company, and all my like really dumb questions like, okay, explain the difference between 4-wheel drive and all-wheel drive to me, and they were like, yeah, sure, and quite happy to explain it to me, and like all the departments were quite friendly to explain things to me, and kind of slowly as my knowledge increased, you sort of wake up one day and you realize that you've not spent the past 5 weeks going, oh God, it was kind of very, very gradual. But I do distinctly remember for the good, and my partner was like, yeah, you absolutely god awful. the first couple of months when I was at Codemasters, I was proper really, really thankful I was there, and I was watching because Bake Off's back on, and I was watching Bake Off at the time, and you see some of the finalists and they get to the end and they can do it, but they kind of like the nerves get to them, and I was kind of like in the mirror like you don't want to be one of those Bake Off finalists. Okay, that's all right, I can do it, and then go on in and try my best and try and sort of be like, no, we really we need these features in, and this is why I think we need these features in, and kind of just like accepting if it didn't work, and accepting that it wasn't because they thought I couldn't do the job, but it was just because there's loads of other reasons why, and yeah, it was just a case of like one day just kind of realizing somebody asks you the question about imposter syndrome, and you're like, do you know what? I've not felt it for ages, but I know exactly. Yes, I have felt imposter syndrome when I started Codemasters.
Fantastic. That was such a good journey for you to take us on, and a fantastic bit of advice, actually. There you go, everyone. Stand in the mirror, look at yourself and say, you don't want to be a Bake-Off contestant where you're getting all nervous. So whenever you feel imposter syndrome, anyone out there, that's what you now do. Amanda's told you now. So does anyone else have any experiences they'd like to share in terms of imposter syndrome, or what it's like to be a woman in this world?
I'll take this one. So I'm going to be extremely honest. I still feel imposter syndrome, and it's nothing to do with my colleagues. It's nothing to do with the people I work with, who are absolutely lovely and are extremely supportive. I'm going to be honest and say I feel it every single day, and it's about, for me, it's about feeling it, but saying your opinion regardless. In my role, I come across a lot of people for whom, particularly on the F1 side, you come across, and I'm sure everyone else is the same, you come across very, very, very knowledgeable people. You come across people for whom they've been in the industry for a long time, and they are incredibly knowledgeable, and oh my gosh, I just respect you and your knowledge, and you're so knowledgeable, and sometimes there comes a point where you have to disagree with what they're saying, whether it's because you just, maybe there's a time where you have a different opinion, and sometimes when that can be quite difficult, right? Because you're sitting there going, but I respect your knowledge, and you've been in this industry so long, and I haven't, and for me, it's about feeling it and admitting that you're feeling it, right? We're all, I feel it every single day, but going out there and saying your opinion regardless. And making sure, and that's something that because I remember being a young girl, or kind of a young adult, and being on webinars, and not some webinars, but talking to people, and it's like, I want to be, she's the full package. She's everything that I want to be. And actually, when you get here, you realize, well, actually, I'm not the full package, and I don't want to say that I am. There's still a lot that I want to learn and learn about, and so much confidence I want to gain. But yeah, for me, it hasn't gone away. But that said, that's nothing to do with the workspace. That's just, I think I admire a lot of the people around me, and sometimes the having to disagree with that can make you feel a little bit nervous, but it's about swallowing that and doing it anyway.
Fantastic. Anyone else to share?
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing this for about over a decade now, and I still have days where, like Jenny was saying, I just will like lose confidence, or I'll doubt myself. And I think like it's completely natural to feel that, it's like you're gonna have you can't know everything, and you need to always be learning from people around you too. So I think if anyone claims to know everything, then it's that they're probably not in the best position, really. But I think, like, I can't remember who told me this, but somebody said that something that really helps when you are doubting yourself, or having a day when you just lost confidence and you think, oh, I can't do this, is to kind of like look back at everything that you've already achieved, like whether it's like or your GCSEs, or it could be something really small, and it might seem insignificant to others, but like the week before, somebody came and asked me a question to help with something, and I knew the answer, and I helped them, and and then they learned something from me, and that's like it feels like a small thing, but it meant that I had the the knowledge to pass on to someone else, and I think that really helps. And again, it's the team that I'm working with are so supportive, and they're really, really great. But I think it's something that I think like the way that the whole society works with like it's kind of been embedded into us from a young age that women do these roles and men do these roles, and so when you are in a role that is typically male dominated, you certainly do sometimes get these feelings of like, I'm in the wrong role, like it's that kind of and you even though you've got all the knowledge and the experience to back it up, it can still like it's almost like it's subconscious there, and you have to like address it and talk about it, and get past it, and like Jenny says, just kind of sort of swallowing it down and going past that, well, I do know this, or I'll find out how I can learn this. And yeah, definitely.
Amazing. That's some really good advice that we've heard from everyone. With the small victories, look yourself in the mirror, just remember that you belong in this industry. So that's fantastic. Thank you for sharing all of that. But let's go kind of back to the beginning, because we did talk a little bit about what everyone did at uni, but I think this will be really important for people who are looking to kind of get into the same roles as you. I mean, nobody seems to really have had a linear path straight into this. Kat with engineering, Amanda with film. So we've had a widespread of kind of uni qualifications. But what would you recommend if somebody was dead set on kind of getting into the gaming industry and design? What would you think is the best uni degree, or maybe activities or hobbies to do outside of uni to kind of make them well-rounded and help them get to that final place in that, where they can apply for these jobs in game design and et cetera, for companies like Codemasters? Sorry, that was very long.
I just want to add to that you don't always need a degree to get into. I know some very talented artists and coders that have taught themselves, and that have just taken every resource. Like Google is your friend, and they'll take every resource available and then just teach themselves. But I like I said, I studied art and design. I'm not a designer, a programmer, or artist, so I can't really talk for everybody. But I will say that just keep an open mind. Everyone learns things so differently. For me, I have to do it, fail, and do it again to learn it. So some people are more academic. Everyone's totally different. So yeah, just keep that in mind.
Yeah, University of YouTube is a good place to start. I agree with Siwan. I do not think there's especially with video games, I'm not too sure about motorsport, but video games, there's a definite increase in good video game degrees, but I don't think it's the be all and end all. It was I don't know, 10 20 years ago, if you wanted a good job you needed a degree. I don't believe that. I think especially with the gaming community is so open, and so like they just want to talk your ear off, so the just getting into a good group of people, and you'll learn from them. In terms of design, the surefire way to get an interview and to get your foot in the door is to have a game to kind of hand to them, whether that comes out of a degree or whether it's something that you've made whilst you're working somewhere else. It doesn't it's quite quite open in that regard.
Just adding to that, it's that extra work. I think well, starting back from university, I think it doesn't matter what degree you do. I think because a degree, if you want to do a degree, then that's fine. But it just shows that you can apply yourself and you can see something to the end, and you can achieve something. But I really think getting working for EA/Codemasters is such a privilege, and I think the work that I did outside of my normal jobs and stuff probably got me here. So it was the starting my own business whilst I was at uni, putting myself in front of people that I wanted to work with, just talking, volunteering, and those extracurricular activities essentially. So like creating a game would probably help. So if you want something, you'll put the effort in and you'll go get it. I think that's probably one piece of advice I would take from that. Just do everything that you can. If you really want something, find the people that you need to talk to, pick people's brains. Everybody wants to talk, especially if it's one of us. We're all in the Girls on Track UK group. If you wanted to talk to one of us on and get some advice how to get into the sector, just talk to people, I think, more than anything. And that's how you'll find your way.
That's how I actually got into the industry. So my career background is event management, and I used to host like playtesting sessions in the space where I used to work. And the guys from an indie studio came up to me and they were like, "You've got skills to be a producer. Do you fancy being a producer?" And I was like, "Okay,
why not?
Why not? Yeah, okay." And then so it was just from networking and events. Like say, the gaming community is huge. There will be more face-to-face events soon, I hope, fingers crossed. So network as much as you can. Discord, Slack, all that stuff as well. Game jams.
Yeah, game jams.
Yeah, Discord, I keep talking about Discord on these, but Discord is such a great place to find, especially gaming people. So definitely find some Discord communities. I just keep raving about Discord. They should honestly give me a sponsorship. We have some questions that have come in now. So we have one probably for the game designers that we have. Did teams in Formula One or in Rally share actual technical data from seasons or previous seasons to help you guys when you are designing the games?
Becky might know a bit more about that.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure what I can actually say on that, because I think it started to go into the more secret side of stuff.
Oh, okay.
And I wouldn't want to get it wrong. So it's probably best that one that maybe we come back to that. Maybe if we get some more data on that and we can share it, maybe we could put that in the Facebook feed if we're allowed to. Just to
no worries. There
make sure I don't say the wrong thing. You
can't get all of the secret information from these webinars. You have to go in and get a job with Codemasters if you want the inner details. Another question we have is, does Codemasters offer apprenticeships? I think this is a really good one if people are kind of looking to get into the industry. Is that something that any of you know about?
I think it probably depends on what area of the business, but we can definitely look into it. I know we offer placements, but again, if you you know, if you wanted a role in Codemasters, you know, apply. There's loads and loads of different jobs on the website, on the EA side as well, and they start from really junior, so entry level, to you know, directors and VPs as well. But have a look in on the website to see if there are any apprenticeships or internships maybe, and go from there, and find out who the hiring manager is and who's hiring for that role. Add them on LinkedIn, talk to them, get to know them, maybe even organize a coffee catch up with them, and you know, ask them how you can get into the industry and into that role and stuff.
Yeah, networking, super important. Thank you, Kat, for that answer. Let's take it back. I know we did a little bit of this at the beginning, but in terms of anyone out there who might be wanting to get into one of your roles specifically, do you think you could give us each a little breakdown of what you do basically day to day? Because I feel like, I mean, I'm really curious, so I know that there will be people out there as well who are really curious. Why don't we start with you, Kat?
Yeah. Marketing, we scurry around in the background making sure everything goes okay. So essentially, we day to day do so many different things. I don't even know where to start. But so everything that you see, every consumer touch point before you know, head into the game, that's probably marketing behind it. So how the box, you know, if you pick up the game in store, how the box art works, we want to make sure that people want to pick up the game and play it. So we're trying to communicate with our target audience to make sure that they want to buy our game and play it. So yeah, and then it's a lot of research. So who are our target audience? Why? What do we need to say to them? We have we work with people in Jenny's team on the social media side, you know, to push those messages out on social media. There's so many strings to the bow as well. So, you know, we'll look after the product life cycle as well. Just so in gaming we have things called DLCs. So the game might go live, but then throughout the following year or following 2 years, we'll have new downloadable content that you can buy or download. So we have to market those. Yeah, loads of things. Creating marketing assets. It's just a lot of things.
No, that's great. I think a lot of people think that marketing is just kind of one thing, and it's good to know that there are so many things that you kind of do on a daily basis. So fantastic. Thank you very much. Who wants to go next? Oh, no one. Okay. Let's go with you, Amanda.
Sure. So day to day. I suppose I'll quickly run through what I did today.
Good. Sounds good.
Working on Dirt 5, I would play the game. See if it needs, if it's kind of following the theme I think it should follow of any of the design goals that we'll have had set for it previously in any design documents that I'll have written, and I'll have written with the help of the rest of the design team and getting signed off by some of the other departments. Play it, see how it feels, go into the game and tweak it, maybe go to some of my colleagues, get their feedback on it, and yeah, just a bit of that, sort of tweaking the game, try and make it feel a bit better, sort of putting out some design goals kind of thing. So yeah, doesn't sound very exciting, but it's fun.
It's good to know. I'm sure someone will love to. Well, I enjoyed hearing that, and I'm sure everyone else did as well. Becky, let's come to you next. I know your roles are a little bit similar, but I'm sure there are much different aspects.
My job changes so much, like through the dev cycle. There's so many different parts to it that it's hard to like pick a specific day. but I guess like at the start of a project, it might be something like, say we were going to do Norway Rally, which we did for Dirt 3. We'd like want to research the area that we were going to pick, so it would be like a lot of, you know, looking for images, videos, you know, satellite images of the area, and sort of getting an idea of what the location looks like. And once we've kind of decided on sort of a more specific area, we might start putting like a 2D design together. This isn't all in what, this isn't like a one day thing. There's like too much, but yeah, we put like a sort of a 2D design together, and we'd look at like the way that the track works as a whole, but also the experience of like corner to corner, and how we can keep the player engaged through that entire track. So it's like a journey, and the things that you might see along that journey, the experiences, the way it feels. We'd have like, you know, areas that were more intense to drive, areas that like allow the player to relax a little bit, and that kind of all comes down to like the flow and the pace of the track. And we want to make sure that we're not like throwing a track at someone where the person's like just in a state of stress by the end of it, like sweating, like, oh my god,
that would be me.
But at the same time, like if we make it, you know, too relaxed, then it's kind of like just like a little car journey. Oh, look at that tree, you know, like it's got to be like a good balance of, it's only to test the player, but also allow them a chance to breathe before they get into another area of intensity. And so kind of getting that balance right. So I guess that's quite similar to what Amanda was saying. It's like a balancing act between different parts of the game and making sure that it all works as one. So once we've kind of like got a 2D and we think, you know, on paper this works, and I think like as you've done that more and more times, you start to realize on paper what is going to work. I think like when you're doing your first sort of track designs on paper, doesn't always like translate well into 3D, but as you get that knowledge again, you go, actually this corner is definitely not going to work, so we'll scrub that one out of the 2D and we won't even bother with it. And then yeah, that will go, you know, we take that into the 3D stage, which also encompasses actually going on a research trip. So we send people out, or we might go out ourselves depending on the situation, and how safe the location is as well. And we'd get people taking photos. So we'd have like 2 sets of photos and videos, one that is more track design related, so that's more like capturing the shapes of corners, the cambers, the undulations, how they all flow together one into another. And the art team would be looking more specifically at like the types of objects that you see, like, oh, look at this nice rock or this tree, that will look nice, and you know, look, this house. And then they'd get texture shots as well, so things of, you know, like different types of road surface, gravels, foliage, anything that they can bring back and make it look like that environment. And yeah, then we kind of combine what we found on the research trip with our 2D and our 3D, and then you'd start to get something that was playable in game. And it looked pretty ugly at the start, because we'd kind of just literally have like it's all grey, you know, like it's just kind of a ribbon, a road with a few objects that represent, might just be a block that's like a house, or a block that's like a,
like,
you know,
Minecraft.
yeah, it pretty much is. It is like Minecraft to start with, and you'd be driving down it, and it's kind of like, you know, oh, that will be a tree, or that will be a house, and that will be a bridge, and but then you're getting like the kind of the feel of the track and whether it's working. And I think it's really important at that stage as well to understand like whether you need to make changes, because it's easier to make changes early on than later on, once all the art stuff starts getting. So you have to be really critical of your own work. You have to accept feedback as well, and that's a really good skill actually to have, is accepting feedback, and like deconstructing the feedback to what is just like too subjective, like to that person, but what is actually, you know, the stuff that I can like put into my design. And you know, if there's a load of people saying the same thing, I'd be foolish not to listen to that feedback, you know. So yeah, then once we're kind of happy with how it's playing and it feels good, it feels fun, and kind of the bit that I always look at is when somebody's playing it and then instantly they get to the end and they play it again, like that means to me that they want to play it again, like they're enjoying it, and that's a really good clue, regardless of what, you know, anything else that goes on top of that, the small fixes and the feedback. But if they keep trying to play it again and again, and before they know it's lunchtime and they've spent a morning on it, you're like, okay, they're enjoying this. Yeah, then we all this process we'd be working alongside the art team to make sure that what we've designed can actually be, you know, implemented by the art team. Because if I said, well, I've built like this giant castle, and they're like, we can't do that, or whatever, you know, like it's got to be within budget. So then they'd come along and they'd take this like ugly looking grey mesh and they'd make it look amazing, like bring it to life. And that's a really great part, actually, when you've built something and the art team just do this magic, and then it comes back and you're like, oh, it looks like where I was and it looks amazing. And I love that bit. It's so good. It's like your baby's come back and it's like, oh.
That's exactly, I mean, that's a product of what you've created.
Yeah.
Sounds fantastic. That was a really, really good breakdown. I might want to get into this now. I think that was good promotion. Fantastic. Just as a little aside, and a reminder to everybody, make sure you are getting in your questions as we're kind of coming to the latter stages of this webinar. So make sure you get your questions in the Q&A if you have anything you want to ask any of these incredible women. Jenny, you gave us a good day-to-day rundown at the beginning. Is there anything else that you didn't mention that you want to add to your day-to-day life, to your promotion of your job?
Yeah, so one of the things I really love doing is looking at feedback, reading what people have said, seeing how people are enjoying the game. You know, I guess whilst I'm not so much involved in the design or making process, it still feels a little bit like my game. Or I'm you know, so much mine, but I'm part of the team that helps take it out there. And so the one thing I really love is watching people play and enjoy the game and telling us that they do. You know, that to me is really special because it helps it's a real thing that people are really enjoying, and there's lots of people who put work into that. So that's really lovely as well. The other thing that I really like is I guess being part of the F1 world. So one of the things I really like is kind of in my role, you kind of have to be knowledgeable about the sport of F1 because we have a really knowledgeable community. They are really into their sport. They're really into their F1. They know when things aren't right. They know when things are right. And so one of the things I really love doing is making sure that I'm up to speed with what's going on in the world of F1. And now I follow it naturally, but you know, it's keeping up with the news. It's making sure that you're being in the world of F1. And that I think is part of the role that I really enjoy, because it makes it this to me is like everything that I've ever dreamed of. So, you know, getting to talk about what's happened in the world of F1 on our social channels is just like, oh, you know, it's amazing. But yeah, it's mainly kind of like it's a real mix. One thing I would say is a real mix of I think I said this before, but it's a real mix of kind of like creative stuff where you're thinking about your words, thinking about what goes with what, to, you know, data. So looking at, you know, numbers, looking at who's engaged with what, looking at how many times somebody's retweeted something, what's the biggest topic, at what percentage, and all that stuff. So it's really, it's a real mix of kind of like having to be, you know, creative, but also having to look at data. So you kind of almost have to wear a few hats, and that's the bit I really enjoy as well. It's just like a broad range of things. So no day is really the same depending on what you've got. You know, you could be report writing, or you could be, you know, stuck into campaign planning. You're planning this post, you're planning this really big trailer that you've got, you know, and so, you know, you can, days are really different depending on what's going on, and that's the bit that I absolutely love. It's so mixed.
Yeah, no 2 days are the same really in this industry, are they? Very unpredictable. And finally, we've come to C1, day-to-day rundown of what you do.
No 2 minutes are the same. 2 days. Yeah, so I suppose I help manage the day-to-day running of, like I said earlier, different teams. So different teams of designers, artists, and programmers. I'm also a Scrum Master. So we the daily stand-ups will be like scrums where teams will come together and just basically talk about what they're doing, what they did yesterday, what they're doing today, and if they're blocked. And then my job would be to kind of try and get as much information out of them as possible to help kind of move the conversation along, and to also try and unblock them, like I said before. But also we kind of, as producers, kind of take, or associate development managers now, take kind of take a bit of ownership of people's calendars as well. So we will put, like, they're called sprint ceremonies, and so where we'll basically have 2 weeks worth of work. We'll assign 2 weeks worth of work to a team, and then throughout that 2 weeks we'll track it, and we'll review it, and maybe do a retrospective of what went good, what went bad, and yeah, if there was any risks or issues raised. So there's that, and then there's also a thing called a backlog. So if you're working on a project and Amanda comes around and she goes, I want to make 10 what they call volcanoes. I want my cars to run at drive at volcanoes. This is the new feature that I want. And we're going to go, well, Amanda, that's great, but we don't actually have the time right now. Or it costs quite a lot of money to make that feature. Let's just put it in the backlog and come back to it, and, you know, kind of pick it apart and see when we can actually implement this work. So there's a thing called like backlog, I'm not going to say that word, but prioritization. So again, it's calling people into loads of meetings all the time. Something with production, or well, development in general, that meetings cost money. You know, you've got very senior people in loads of meetings and they're not doing any work. Even a coder, you know, always in meetings, they're not coding. They need to be doing all, you know, they need to be in work. They need to prioritize their time. So we'll work with them to do that. We also work with release managers who will have relationships with Sony, Microsoft, people like that. So that's a whole other area of the team that I've not really been exposed to as of yet. So I'm really looking forward to getting stuck into that. And yeah, preparing submissions as well. So yeah, the submission kind of pipeline of getting the builds uploaded, tested, and submitted. Again, living in a diary, making sure that they're going off in time and coming back and being tested and stuff like that. So there's a lot of coordination daily with different teams, and just trying to think. Oh, IT. Not that I work in IT, but I work alongside IT. I liaise with IT on a daily basis just to make sure that people have got, you know, if they've got blockers on, my PC's not working, it can't run at this, you know, it can't run at this rate, and my graphics card is too old or something, people will come to me. If I was in the office, they'd be like, Sion, where's the tea bags? It's just, yeah, little things like that. Just trying to think if there's anything else. If I'm not hassling people, sometimes I'm probably not doing my job. So there's a lot of poking and prodding, and just mainly it's just checking in, but it is part of a producer to kind of keep things moving throughout the development cycle. So yeah, that's me.
Wow, you guys all do so much. It's incredible over such a wide amount of stuff. Who gets to actually play the game, and how much do you get to play any games? Like Kat, Jenny, you're in the marketing, social media aspect. How much gameplay do you actually get to do, and does it help kind of with your other roles?
I mean, sometimes we'll jump in. We've got a new game coming out soon called Grid Legends, and I'm the associate brand manager on that, so I get to jump in sometimes, but to be honest, we're so busy that we don't really get much chance to do it. You know, we've got loads of things going on, but it is important for us to understand the game, understand how it works, understand how it feels, so we can, well, personally, I don't know for Jenny, but personally, so I know how to market it to the audience and stuff. So when people think, oh, you work in games, you must play games all the time, it's not true. Well, not for me anyway, not in marketing, but it's not true. Yeah, if I find a spare 10 minutes in between meetings and stuff, then I will try and jump in. But yeah, not often, maybe like
You
once
can't
a
really
month.
complete Assassin's Creed in 10 minutes, though, can you? In the game.
But yeah, so no, I don't play that much. If I can find time, then we'll jump in. But yeah, it is important to do so. I should probably say that. But it's finding the time.
Definitely. Jenny?
Oh, she's frozen.
Oh, Jenny's frozen. Oh no. Okay, right. We've had a
Yeah,
couple
I
of.
mean, as a community manager,
She's back. Go on.
sorry about that. I don't know what happened.
No worries.
Yeah, so effectively, when it comes to kind of like playing, because obviously we have a lot of community feedback into us, and so for us we have to be understanding of what, understanding of the game at hand. Is this a problem? So say if somebody says I can't do this, so that we can guide them to the right solution. So say for example, if I can't find this, we can then direct them to the right place in the game. I can't find this option to do this. How do I turn my assists down? How do I do this? So sometimes we need to play the game in order to be able to answer customers correctly, and answer people's questions. But also it's a case of getting a feel for it, and kind of understanding how the community plays it, so that we can give feedback as well. So playing is is key for us.
Fantastic. Well, that's great to hear. Yeah, fantastic. We have a couple of questions that have come in. Does anyone have a favorite driver / team in motorsports, in any different motorsport series? Anyone? I'll throw it to the floor. Go on, Jenny.
I have been a massive Sebastian Vettel fan.
Wow.
For many.
Everybody's a Sebastian Vettel fan.
Ever since kind of like he first came into the sport with kind of when Robert Kubica had his accident and broke his leg, and Sebastian Vettel came in for him with BMW. I have been a fan since then, and I've kind of like been following his career ever since. So I feel I'm very much in the Sebastian Vettel fan camp.
Okay, that's fantastic. Everybody loves Seb. Definitely a good choice. Anyone else have a favourite?
I'm gonna have to stick with my Welsh boy, Elfyn Evans in WRC. You have to support the Welsh. Actually, saying that, we have John Armstrong that works for Codemasters, who's so we should all be saying John Armstrong really, but yeah, Elfyn Evans for me, but that's in rallying, obviously. F1, I mean, there's so many. Lando, love Lando. George Russell with Mercedes next year, that'll be exciting. Also a big fan of Kimi Räikkönen, but yeah, he's obviously
going.
He's going, I know. He's like the Iceman, he's so funny, but yeah. Yeah, sorry, I've just
good choices. I like those. Who's next?
Oh, it's really hard to pick a favorite because we've had quite a few of them into the studio, and I don't want to just be like, oh, I like them best. But I think we've had several of the touring car drivers, like the BTCC drivers in, and they were all brilliant because they're just bags of personality as well. So they were always great fun to have in the studio, playing our games, calling things out on the game and stuff. We've had like Matt Neal in. We've had Rob Austin, Aidan Moffat, and they were all really good fun to have around. And from the W series, I'm quite a fan of Alice Powell as well. I think she's amazing. Again, she's been into the studio, an absolutely brilliant day with her, playing our games and stuff. So yeah, that's great.
Anyone else got any favourites in any series?
I'm with Catherine. Support Wales.
I'll take it. I'll take it. I won't fight you as I'm English. No, sounds good. But this webinar is coming to an end. I just have one more question that I would really love to hear all of your answers for, and I'm sure everyone else would as well. But what has been the highlight of your career thus far? What's been the best thing, the best place you've got to go, the best thing you've managed to do? What is kind of the top thing that you've done so far? Who wants to go first? There's so many of you. I'll just, whichever of you wants to answer first, go for it.
I don't mind going first. I'll just jump in there. I haven't been at Cody's very long, but I'm sure I'll say when I see the game in store, the game that I'm working on at the moment in store, that'll probably be a highlight. But I think as a career, Wales Rally GB was definitely a highlight for me. I used to go to it as a child, and then working behind the scenes and seeing that come to fruition, that was amazing. And but yeah, some really cool things. It's really hard to pick, but yeah, thanks for the question.
Sorry for the difficult question. We'll go Jenny next.
So I feel very lucky to have done this. So one of the things that I do in my role is I deal with F1 esports and the social presence of F1 esports on our channels. This is kind of pre-COVID, but one of the things that I was lucky enough to do in our first F1 esports series was go to Abu Dhabi, and we went in the paddock. So we had it was the first F1 esports series. We had a garage on the end of the paddock and one of the hospitality places. And I spent 5 days. I mean, I was I was ill with a cold. I was awful the entire week. It felt awful. But I was in this paddock. I was in the F1 paddock filled with all these people. And I think it took me every single day I was like, I'm in a paddock. I mean, obviously, I was there to cover it for our social channels and make sure that, all the pictures of we had all the people there. But it was absolutely amazing. And, it's an experience going into a paddock, let alone going into Abu Dhabi's paddock. And it was just the best experience. And it was absolutely stunning. And it's something I will never, ever forget as long as I live.
And you've blown me out the water.
It was great. So I'm really sorry.
North Wales, Abu Dhabi.
It's not a competition.
Yeah, but yeah, it was and it was a start. So Brendan Lee was our first winner, and he won there. And I guess for him that started off his journey of kind of where he is now. But yeah, it was so memorable, and I absolutely loved it.
Fantastic. Right, let's go to C1.
This is my highlight.
I was going to say, did you do that? Because it's fantastic, and there is no way I would ever be able to do that. I do not have an artistic drawing bone in my body.
I meant the webinar. This is my highlight of my career.
Oh, me thinking that you drew the background.
No, I'm joking. Well, this is cool. Yeah, this is very cool. I don't really have one because it's a really difficult question.
Really? I didn't think it would be this hard.
I suppose. I don't know if it's the right. Getting the job at Codemasters when they were, going through the whole EA transformation, I felt really proud and privileged, but I felt really lucky to be a part of that because EA are great, and I'm excited to see what happens. So far, that's the highlight.
Fantastic. Becky?
Yeah, I mean, it's a tricky question. I mean, sometimes like when we've been on the research trips, they're just so different. Like in Norway, we ended up standing in the middle of a frozen lake watching cars drive around, and that was pretty special. Like you wouldn't get to do that anywhere else. But I don't know, it's a really, really tough one because there's so many different things, and like, I don't know.
I mean, that sounds pretty awesome. Yeah. Norway, standing on a lake. Sounds good. Perfect. Okay, well, last but not least, we've got Amanda. What is your highlight / best experience?
Well, I've not got any exotic trips, unfortunately, but it was really, really nice. Like a friend of a friend's just being like, oh yeah, I've played that Dirt 5 game, and yeah, I really like that bit. And it's kind of like, I helped with that.
That's me.
So that yeah, and seeing it on the shelf, yeah, definite. I took a photo of it in Asda, you know, circled it, send it to all my family. So that was definitely a highlight.
Fantastic. Well, you guys have had so many highs already, and I'm sure there are so many more to come in each of your careers, and I'm excited to watch them happen. So thank you to all of you for coming on to this webinar. We're going to kind of wrap it up now. We've got a little bit over, but it's just because you all had so much to say, which is so fantastic. Anyone who wanted to ask any more questions, please do pop them in the community Facebook page afterwards. I'm sure everyone will be happy to answer them, but we've just run out of time. But yes, big thank you to all you ladies. Big thank you to Girls on Track UK and Motorsport UK for making this webinar possible. And thank you to all of the participants for joining. Thank you all for sending in your questions. Yeah, we're going to end this one here. Once the webinar is done, there will be a link to a survey after, just so that you guys can show, you guys can have your say on these webinars, how we can make them better for you guys in the future. So thank you all so much for coming. It will be available, again, the recording on the Facebook page, which I've said about a million times in this webinar. And now I'm just going to bring this to an end. Thank you all so much once again. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and everyone take care. Bye now.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everyone.